Hey guys, this is a video about the imminent loss of control of your vehicle while you're driving and how subtle the signs can be. This is a clamp that is holding a intermediate steering rod onto my desk. This intermediate steering rod connects my steering wheel in my car to my steering system in the engine compartment, and the steering system has been intermittently making a knocking sound while steering the vehicle. So occasionally, especially while parking or driving slowly, turning the steering wheel would result in a knocking sound inside the engine compartment, and it would happen several times in a day, over several days, and then it wouldn't happen for weeks or months. The sound would just disappear. There was no physical feedback on the steering wheel side, so there was really only a noticeable knocking sound that you could hear when you turn the steering wheel. There wasn't, the steering didn't become tight or loose. It really didn't change its behavior at all. The only indication that there was any issue with this intermediate steering rod was that it was making a knocking sound. And let me show you how this works. So each end of the intermediate steering rod has a universal joint. It's a joint that allows this end to turn in pretty much any direction. This can actually go farther. It can go down to here, but it's clamped to the desk, so it won't be able to do that. And it can also turn in this direction as well. And it can do these actions simultaneously. Now, when it's in a position like this, it's easy to demonstrate that while it can turn like this, it is not supposed to be able to turn that way from the top. It is a very tight connection that should be tight at all times, and there should be no way to wiggle it. It should be very secure and make no noise. You can hear there's no noise, except for the plastic bag and the knocking of the metal on the wood. On this side, we have the other end of the U-joint. Now, you don't have to pay too much attention to the coloration. That's just dirt and a bit of soot. And you can see it behaves in much the same way. The subtle difference here, and the sign of imminent failure, is this behavior right here. This very subtle play that is achieved here. Now, this isn't directly responsible for the knocking noise, but as tension is built while turning the steering wheel and activating the steering system in the vehicle, these components can bind on each other, and that can be seen here, where there is a deformation in the metal casing here. There we go. So you can see that it is bent. It is not straight up and down, and it is cracked, which allows for room for this to move. And the binding happens when there's tension applied in this joint, and the tension is released at once as this is turned in multiple directions. The binding has further deformed more parts of this. This is metal here. This is supposed to be very strong and not cracked, and it should have no play at all. And you can see from this side here, it's well worn. And just for comparison, on a new or a well-behaving universal joint, there's no play it doesn't make any sound. There's no binding, and there's no deformation of the metal. So this very subtle wear that's happened here will eventually allow this joint to come apart and this piece to pop out, or this piece to pop off, coming apart and rendering your steering wheel useless. So while your vehicle is in motion, you could easily find yourself careening in whatever direction you were headed the instant that this has come apart, and there would be absolutely no way to regain control of your steering until this part was replaced. So the only thing that you could do to save yourself when this does eventually fail, and it will, this is a problem that only gets worse, it does not solve itself. The only way to save yourself is to stop your vehicle before you cause any damage. It's a very, very subtle bit of wear and tear on an essential piece of equipment for your vehicle. And it's very important that you're keeping in mind when your vehicle is making unusual sounds, especially sounds that come when they're unexpected, randomly. Very important to take those warnings, those sounds, seriously, so that you can avoid losing control of your vehicle. That's all I had to say about this intermediate steering rod. This one came out of my 2008 Pontiac G5. The car has needed some extensive work recently to keep it going. It's had some issues with some parts that are more or less unreliable. And unfortunately, this critical component is no exception. So it's definitely something to be aware of. And it's the kind of very subtle indicator that can have very serious consequences. Thanks.